Thank you for your patience. We'll get this started in a minute. All right, I just put my email in the YouTube, so please make sure that you reach out via email and get on the email list. All right, we see both videos. We got the camera going, we got the microphone going. All right, let's get this party started. And I will show my face again. Hello, I'm in here in the corner. All right, today we're going to make an apple Dutch baby. The reason I chose this as a recipe is that I make it with way less sugar than what they make at the original Pancake House, which I used to love to get this from. And it is a great thing to make for breakfast on Christmas or New Year's or whatever. And you can even make it ahead of time. Granted, it doesn't taste as good, but you can also heat it up and it's pretty yummy. Let's go through the ingredients. If you're cooking along with me, cook along, and please feel free to raise your hand or let me know to go a little bit slower. We'll go through the ingredients. You can use either coconut oil. Well, let's get right here in the camera. Coconut oil, or you can use butter. I've got a little butter in there. In my container. You're going to want to have 5 eggs at room temperature. And my trick is, if you don't have the eggs at room temperature and you're just taking them out of the fridge, put them into a bowl, measuring cup, and fill it with warm water and let it sit for about 5 minutes, and then they will heat up. Another option is the warm up. You could crack them open into the same kind of bowl, and you can put them in the microwave for a little bit, but my fear with that is that they might cook a little bit. And at least this way, they'll warm up. We have milk and flour, equal portions, 1 1/4 cup, because we do want this to be not a thick batter, but a thin batter. Vanilla extract, always. We're going to just put a little bit of salt in there. That helps with it rising a little bit, as well as some baking powder. That'll help just give it a little bit more lift. We have a teaspoon of cinnamon, and we are going to grind some nutmeg in there. So that's our batter. And then with the apples, one of the things that I like to do is just use whatever apples I have. Of course, you could take it and make it look pretty. It's optional if you want to peel it, but the skin gets soft once you bake it. So I find no need to peel it, but I will be cutting off these little pieces. And oh, I did say the milk. And then we're just going to take the apples and we're going to mix them with even more cinnamon and a little bit of maple syrup or light brown sugar. I'm only using a tablespoon, where most of the other recipes you see will use at least 2 tablespoons. This is just to tag on to last month's nutrition webinar on ways to reduce sugar. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is we need to melt a little bit of butter or coconut oil to be able to put that into our batter. I'm just going to take, and you just use the same pan you're going to cook in. The recipe that I'm doing is about a 10-inch cast iron pan. You can use any pan that is oven safe up to 425 degrees. If you don't have one that's safe up to 425 degrees, then you can always just cook it at a lower temperature to what it's oven safe at, and just cook it a little bit longer. And we'll be talking a little bit more about the cooking in a little bit. Okay, so we've got the pan. Oops, but you can't see the pan. Let's get the pan. I'm putting the pan in the back because you see a little corner of it, because I want to be able to keep this as a cool surface area to cut the apples on. So I am going to do the coconut oil. It'll give it a nice, neat taste to it. So 1 tablespoon is what we need for the batter. So I'm going to put a tablespoon of the coconut oil in. And you also want to start preheating your oven to 425 degrees. I have one of the most amazing preheat features on my oven. So it is already up there. Okay, we're going to melt that. While that is melting, I'm going to put the batter ingredients in my bowl, because we want our batter to sit for a little bit. It just gives it a little bit of a chance to rest and thicken. The order really doesn't matter so much. I am doing it by hand. You can always put your eggs into, for this reason exactly, this is completely done to show you. You can always put your eggs into a separate container so you don't get eggshells in there. But this is one of the reasons why it's nice to do the eggs first if you're just putting them in the bowl, because then you don't have to worry about trying to pick the eggshells out of the flour. Two. Oh my goodness, I am batting 1,000 today, aren't I? Woo! And so the exciting add-on that we have is, while this is baking, we are going to make some spicy hot chocolate, so no time is wasted, just for those of you who are cooking along. All right, now I'm really big into my composting lately. So what I have here is my composting bowl, and I'm just going to put the eggshells in there, and I go about once every other week and drop that off. The composting, this container fits right in my freezer door. So, I got to move it away. My oven's pretty hot. And it's perfect because then it doesn't smell up the kitchen or anything like that. And then once this gets full, I just empty it into a plastic bag, keep it in the freezer. And it's just super duper handy for me. All right. So we are going to add the milk. Oh my goodness, there's an eggshell in there still. Oh my goodness. All right, let me get a spoon to get that out. The good thing about having a nice small kitchen is everything is within hand's reach. All right. Whew. All right, so we're going to add our milk. Great way to reuse a jar. It had the measuring on the side with 1 1/4. So I was just able to reuse this jar. I'm the queen of reducing, reusing, and recycling. We were talking about that at work. I know that some people on this call could probably answer this. About how long does a roll of paper towels last me? Anyone can answer that? I'll give them a $10 Amazon gift card. All right, I'm only putting some of
1 year.
Yes, you get a $10 Amazon gift card. People were shocked that a roll of paper towels lasts me a year. And my response to them was, anybody know?
They use too much.
Have you ever heard of rags? So I just put some of the flour in there because my cup was a little small, and I'm mixing together the baking soda, a little bit of the salt, and stirring it in, or soda, stirring it into the flour, just especially the baking soda, so it doesn't clump up. All right. I did that once with a chocolate cake when I was in college. And everyone told me that the nuts were absolutely wonderful in the cake. The problem is there were no nuts. All right, we're going to add the vanilla. We have this is only 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. And then the nutmeg, I actually am going to go old school and just grind a little bit of nutmeg in there. Put as much as you want. The recipe has 1/4, but you can put whatever is to your tasting. You can also just use pumpkin pie spice. It's very, very flexible in how you season it. All right, so we got that, we got that, we got that. Notice I'm also not putting any sugar in the pancake mix because I don't think you need it because you have it everywhere else. All right, I shut the oven off, or the oven's still on and I'm sweating, woof. But I shut my cast iron off and I'm going to pour in my coconut oil. because you want a little bit of fat in there. It just helps it up. And the great thing is whatever stays in there, we'll be using in a little bit. All right, so this it's not too hard to mix up. So I just recommend doing it by hand. You want to do it until it's pretty smooth. You can also use an immersion blender. You can use beaters, whatever, but it doesn't take too long to do it this way either, a few minutes. And it's a great way to build up some arm strength. Ha 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 ha. Just want to make sure you're getting it off the side. I just made this the other day and it didn't seem to take this long to whisk it, but maybe it wasn't 8 o'clock on a weeknight after a crazy day at work. This is a neat whisk that I have. You can also use the traditional type of whisk. Like I said, you want most of the lumps gone. I'm just going to go. And you can see by the side that it is pretty thin as well as on the top. And it's thin as well as smooth. So we're just going to let that be. And I am going to put this on the side. All right, now we're going to get to the apples. So I'm just going to pull this bowl down. And I have my recycle or my composting right. Ooh, we got to wipe that bowl out. I've even frozen this one because I make it's just me and Bentley, and I don't serve this to Bentley. So I just kind of make it and put it in the freezer, keep it in the fridge for a couple of days. Like I said, it's up to you if you want to peel the apples. I'm just taking the yucky spots off and putting them into my composting. And this is also a great way to use apples up. Of course, you can make a little decoration if you want. What I like to, and what works really well, but unfortunately I couldn't find it, is like if you have a melon baller, that works really well to get the insides. Oh, I think it's over here. You take one little look. Oh, that was the last hope of where it would have been, and it's not. All right. So, to be safe, what I do is I cut them in quarters, take the seeds out. I'm using a paring knife, and remember, the most dangerous knife in your kitchen is a dull one. So you want to be careful, and you also want to take your time because you don't want to cut yourself. And it's a great time to do this because apples are still in season. So I'm just going to get all my apples ready first. Where's the one that So just cut your apples as well. And try not to get the seeds in there. So the special for the nutrition class that I was talking about, oh, maybe it was on the other video. So I am starting Epicure nutrition courses online, and the first course is going to be launched on January 1st. And for the month of December, I am offering special pricing. It is a $660 value for $349. And what it includes is 6 courses on the Intro to Nutrition, focusing on plant-based foods. It comes with handouts for each course, recipes, 12 weeks of meal planning, 2 45-minute counseling sessions with yours truly to create a personalized nutrition plan for you so we can customize the recipes to foods that you like. It's a great way for you to get started with your New Year's goals of being healthy, or give the gift of health to somebody else. Please reach out to me at Karen@epicurenutrition.net if you want more information about it. And for those of you who received the newsletter, you will see it in there. So I have all the apples cut, and what I do is I cut them into slices. Ideally, you'd want to get them uniform. So my slices are, I don't know, maybe about a half an inch. And the idea is to get enough slices to be able to put on the bottom of the pan. Some of these are going to be a little bit smaller, which is fine because it can fill in some holes. It's up to you how fancy you want to make the bottom where we put the apples. You can just throw them all in there. You can line them up to make a pretty fan design. All up to you. You can prepare the apples the night before, so you don't have to do it all in the same day. You can do a whole bunch of, oops, I'm going to get rid of some of this. You can do a whole bunch of apples at once and even put them in the freezer. Then you can use them in the future for applesauce, apple pie, apple pancakes, or this apple Dutch baby. And you can even use more apples if you want. I know my mom likes to double and triple the amount of apples. I like to double and triple the amount of cinnamon because I just love cinnamon. Let's see, did we get them all? I think so. You know what? I've got one other apple here that's seen better days. So I am just going to take that apple and add it to the mix. At the farmer's market here, they a couple of the farmers, what they do is they have these not ready for prime time apples, I guess you could say. They have some of them have some blemishes, and instead of selling them for like the $2-3 a pound, I can get like 4 pounds for $3 or $4, and it saves a lot of money. Most of them aren't yucky. These have been, I think I've had these for maybe like 2 weeks now, which could explain why there's some of the yuckiness. Oh, and I know what I did. I didn't put them in the fridge right away. They sat in the plastic bag for I think a day or two, and that's why they got a little bit yuckier than normal. But you just cut those pieces away, and when you're composting it, you don't feel as bad. Or at least I don't. And some of you probably won't feel bad even if you don't compost it. Anyway. Let's see, I think that's all of them. Okay, so what we're going to do to this is we have 2 tablespoons of cinnamon. You can add a little bit more nutmeg here if you want. And I am going to toss this just to coat it. You can also add a little bit of lemon juice if you want, especially if you're going to let them sit for a while, because by adding the lemon juice, it'll keep them from browning. Although how can you really tell because it's cinnamon and they're brown? You can add pumpkin pie spice, you can add some cloves, some allspice, some nutmeg to this, all depending on how much you like those other spices. I personally am not a big fan of cloves. When I got my wisdom teeth pulled, so many years ago, I actually got the dry sockets where the nerve goes off the ending of the blood clot goes off the hole where you have the tooth extracted, and it's painful as anything. And what they do to help cure it, or to help heal it is put clove soaked gauze in there. Ugh, it was absolutely terrible. All right. So you're wondering how much longer I'm going to be talking. Not too much longer. For those of you who know me, you know I can talk forever. So I'm going to move the pan here to the front now. Right now, it does still have some coconut oil in it from when we melted it to put in the batter. I'm going to turn this on to about 4, and I am going to add, you can add another tablespoon depending on how much of you used. I'm going to, and you can switch it up and use butter here if you want. I'm just going to add a half a tablespoon because there's a good amount in there already. The idea to having the oil in the pan is to help create a little bit of a sauce for the apples. Now here you've got a couple of options of what you can do. You can put the apples in here to soften them and cook them a little bit, or you can simply take the brown sugar or the maple syrup, or you can use a little bit of both. And what I'm going to do is try to put it over the pan. See, this is pretty melted. There's oil everywhere. I'm just going to take the brown sugar and I'm just going to put it around, because what that's going to do is evenly disperse it, and it's going to melt and kind of caramelize in the oil. As you can see, I don't use much sugar because when it's all made, what I like to do as well is put a little bit of maple syrup on it. And based upon the previous webinar from last month, we're trying to reduce the additional sugar intake. Apples will have some natural sweetness to them. The cinnamon has some natural sweetness. So I don't feel the need to add a lot of sugar here. So we have the oil, or the fat, which in this case I used coconut oil, but you can also use butter. And then what you can do is place the apple slices along the outside and make a little design. I'll go with my bigger pieces first if I can find them in here. And as my mama said, you can use whatever apples it is that you want. You don't have to use the type of apples that they call for in the recipe. Your apples don't need to be perfect because they're going to be covered in cinnamon and then covered with batter. So I hope for those of you that are cooking along that you're doing all right. Because as a recap, women are only supposed to, well, women and men should really only be having 6 extra teaspoons of sugar a day, and we exceed that a lot. And so looking at the nutrition label where it has the added sugars will help you stay within the limit. If it's something that has 24 grams of added sugar, that's going to be 6 teaspoons, and that's what we should be having. So you can go in the opposite direction or stay in the same direction, or frankly, just throw the apples all in there and not even make a design. I'm gonna take, that's a big one. We'll see what happens with that later. You can sort your apples by big and small before you even start doing this. You can see all the cinnamon on here because, as I said, I love the cinnamon. And what's great about having some of these little bits and pieces is that now that we're at the end, we can just start filling in wherever there are little gaps with some of those little pieces of apple that we have. Sometimes what I do is I mix the batter in the bowl after I do the apples. So then I get even more cinnamon. Let's see. Another one there. Maybe we'll actually, there we go. Trying to get any spots. Anybody see any spots that are missed that could use a little bit more apple? So if you soften the apples first, they'll just be a little bit less crunchy at the end. I think I've got everything pretty good. All right. I do have some apples left. I will save those and eat them later. Just rinse my hand. Okay, I have my batter here. Did separate just a little bit. So all I'm going to do is give it a little bit of a whisk. My oven is preheated to 425 and there is no ventilation in my kitchen. So you can probably hear, let's do it this way so you can see. So all I'm doing is pouring it in and I'm going slow and going all the way around to make sure I get everything covered. And not to disrupt the apples too much because we did make that very, very pretty design. And watching the Great British Baking Show, one of the things they never seem to do is scrape their bowls. All that yummy goodness. All right. So I'm going to take that now and put it in the oven. It's not too much. And in the oven, it only needs to cook for about 10 to 15 minutes. You can cook it and then it leaves it a little bit custardy. If you cook it longer, it dries it out a little bit. So it's really based upon your preference of how custardy or how well done you want it. Oops. Be careful when you place it in the oven as not to disrupt it too much. And in it goes. I'm going to set the timer for 12 minutes and we'll see what it looks like in 12 minutes. Woo! Now it's time to make that spicy hot chocolate I was telling you about. Oh, and I've got to upload the recipes. Let me put them in there right now. I'm going to put them in the chat box. Oops. Oh, just give me 1 minute. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to unmute yourself. There's the apple Dutch baby. And then here is the spicy hot chocolate. So there are the two recipes that we're doing tonight. If the spicy hot chocolate was not included in the email, that was a special bonus for you attending. And for those of you on YouTube, that means you got to send me an email, Karen@epicurenutrition.net to get that. All right. I know I pulled the pot out. Oh, where is it? Oh, there it is. All right. So here is the little itty bitty pot we're making. I am not making 4 cups, but I'm only making 1 cup because it's going to be just for me. And I am using regular milk, but by all means, you can use regular milk, almond milk, soy milk, cashew milk, hazelnut milk, hemp milk. There are so many different milks out there. Pick your poison. All right, so I'm going to put 1 cup of milk in. Do you need to actually measure it? Up to you. All right. And we're going to, oh, that's a big burner, but we are going to put it on a low heat. The back burner would probably be a better option as it's smaller. So we're just going to heat that up and we're going to wait until it's at least lukewarm over a medium low heat because you don't want it to burn and you don't want to get that funky skim on the top either, although you can just peel that off. Now, a couple different options for cocoa. So I just have some plain old cocoa powder here that you can see. And so it's unsweetened because once again, we're talking about reducing sugar. And by using cocoa powder, you can monitor the amount of sugar that you're putting in. Another item that I have that I really, really like, and so I didn't see, and it only has 5 grams of added sugar per serving, and the serving size is 4 teaspoons. Part of it, so anyway, it's this brand. If you can see it, it's called Elements Truffles. They have amazing candy chocolate bars and they're really low in sugar. And also by using the cocoa powder, you can sweeten it with stevia or any other alternative sweetener. And because you're adding all of the different spices to it, you're not going to get that that sometimes bitter taste that you get. And what else about it? There was something else. Less sugar. And this is all about less sugar, but you don't want to just have less sugar and then use artificial sweeteners either. So going something with monk fruit or stevia, which are 0 on the glycemic index, or if you want to put a little bit of sugar in there, you can put maple syrup, you can put regular sugar, or just sweeten it with marshmallows or whipped cream. I'm just going to whisk it a little bit and still kind of cool. And I don't want to add the cocoa powder in it when it's cold because it mixes better when it's a little bit warm. Any questions, anybody? Okay, the spices we're going to use, totally optional, up to you. I'm going to use a little bit of vanilla extract because I swear I put vanilla in everything. To the point is, this is the size of vanilla that I buy. It is 16 ounces. Love the stuff. And then what you can do at the end of when the vanilla is all done and there's a little bit left in there, you can do something like put a little bit of vodka in there and give it a little bit of vanilla flavoring. So then you have a vanilla vodka. All right, I've got to switch the lid on this. Oh, I'm going to actually have to transfer the bottle. They actually made this one without a squirt cap. Oh, all right. So I am going to put in, calls for a teaspoon with 4 cups. So I will put about 1/4 of a teaspoon in. And then we can make the little hot cocoa powder combination off to the side. So normally I would use 3 tablespoons for 4 cups. So I am going to use just less than a tablespoon for 1 cup. I know I have more measuring things. There we go, tablespoon. So here's my tablespoon. Okay. So we've got our tablespoon and oh my, people don't check their emails to see that I've got my webinar tonight. Got a couple of phone calls. So we have 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon. Wipe this one. I also buy cinnamon in bulk, so my cinnamon is in a reused peanut butter container to keep it fresher and to store it. And I just break glass all over the place. So cinnamon adds sweetness. There have been studies to show that cinnamon helps decrease risk for diabetes. It's a nice natural sweetener. Here we've got turmeric, which is an anti-inflammatory, so which is helpful to have. And then we are also going to add some chili powder, or you can add cayenne or chipotle. I've got some, nope, wait, which is this? This is some chipotle. So I'm going to add just a touch of chipotle. I'm just adding about that much because I can always add more, but it'll be harder to take it away. All right, let's check the temperature of the milk. All right, it's pretty warm. So what I'm going to do is just kind of combine this a little bit, all the different pieces. So that's the cocoa, the turmeric, the cinnamon, and the chipotle pepper. Put that in there and then just start whisking away. Once again, if you have an immersion blender, you can use that, or you can use a frother. I've used that before too. I've got a frother for milk to make like a cappuccino at home, and I'd use that as well. You just want to whisk it to make sure that it's all combined. I did not add any sugar because I'm kind of okay without sugar. But you don't want to drink it right away either, because you kind of want the flavors to combine. I don't know if you can see, but you could, the turmeric does give it a little bit of a yellow hue. Okay, so I'm just going to reduce it to low so it just kind of cooks a little bit. I will take just a little bit maple syrup and put that in there. I can't help myself with maple syrup. Yeah, I did buy a big thing of maple syrup too. I really like the dark, robust maple syrup, so that's what I got. Super yum. The only reason I'm not pouring it directly over is because I don't want to overdo it. So I have maybe a teaspoon in there. Just going to pour it. Just mix it with the milk a little bit to get every bit of that maple syrup goodness. Oh, and this is perfect. Now, the hot chocolate normally doesn't take like 10 minutes to make. It took 10 minutes to make because I was yapping during the whole thing and showing you the process. All right. So I'm going to, while I let that sit for a minute, I'm going to take a peek in the oven. Well, it's not quite done yet at all. So we're going to let that continue to cook. And when it's done, it usually puffs up and over because it has a bit of that custard-like appeal. All right. Any questions about sugar, the recipes, the upcoming course? Did I ever tell you my spice rack is alphabetized? Coconut oil is solid at room temperature because it is a saturated fat. Oops. Oh, and what you can do for the hot chocolate to bring out a little bit of the extra flavor, you can add just a touch of salt, and that'll help make it a little bit richer with the chocolate and the other spices. Okay. The pancake probably has another 5 minutes to it. Let me get the one camera and show you what it is that it looks like right now. And then we go. We've got the hot chocolate that's still going. All right, here we go into this oven. And so you can see it cooking in there, and you can see how it has puffed up and even bubbling a little bit still. So it definitely is not done. So it has probably, like I said, about another 5 to 10 minutes on it. If you would like to hang out and wait and see it for the next 5 or 10 minutes, please feel free to do so. I'm going to close the oven now. And I will, there I am. And I will show you what it looks like. Otherwise, I would say have a wonderful, wonderful holiday season. Please give the gift of health and look into the course and counseling offering that I have. Reach out to me and I can explain it a little bit more. And I think it is now time for me to enjoy my hot chocolate. I'm going to turn that off. And I am going to wait about another 5 minutes for the Dutch apple baby to be done. Any questions? All right, then you can just hang out with me in the kitchen and we can just watch the Dutch apple baby continue to cook. Or feel free to enjoy the rest of your evening. Have your cup of hot cocoa. So I'm going to have mine. And I'm going to put the camera in on the stove with the light so we can watch it finish baking. Cool. Let's see if we can make this work. Oh, maybe the window needs to be cleaned a little bit. Here you go. You can finish seeing it bake. I know what else would make this bake a little bit faster. If I had it on convection, that's what I must have done last time. Let me switch it to convection. Oh. There we go. So with the convection baking, it circulates the air around, so it makes it bake faster. Trying to find a better angle. That door just needs to be cleaned. Those look good. All right. We'll get back to that in a minute. Meanwhile, that's what happened last time for those of you who are watching when I had it go in. So, yep, you've got me. Ooh, you can see that I'm going to close my cabinet doors. It's just warm in this kitchen, so I apologize. Let me serve my hot chocolate. And I have a lovely little wiener dog cup here. Just going to give it a little bit of a whisk. Ooh, look at that. Nothing on the bottom. Oh, this one's got a little bit of kick to it. I think what then you can always plan to taste it afterwards. It has a good kick to it though. which will make me drink it a little bit slower, which is a positive thing. And it's not super sweet, just the right amount of maple syrup. You can just add a little bit of nutmeg, a little bit of marshmallows. Oh, good. Take it out so you get a little bit of an idea of what it looks like. I think some of the bubbles that I have on the top is the coconut oil that came out a little bit, but you can see how it's raised up a little bit. And if you touch it, it has a little bit of give to it where it's like a custard. So I'm going to put this back in the oven for just a few more minutes. But it does look pretty close to being done. If you don't want it this custard like and you'd like a little bit drier, you just cook it longer. But I think that this looks pretty darn good. And it does raise up and then it kind of deflates afterwards. And you can top it with maple syrup. You can make like an apple cider syrup, or you can just eat it as is, and it's naturally sweetened with the cinnamon and just what the apples are. So with that, we can actually conclude. I can't even think anymore. We can actually conclude tonight's cook along or cooking demo, whichever it is that you did. And I hope you see that this is a pretty easy dish to make. And then you just eat it all that morning, or you can put it in the fridge for the next day. It's something that's easy to bake if you're opening up gifts with kids or whatever it might be. I want to thank you very much for being a part of this cook along tonight for the apple Dutch baby and the spicy hot chocolate. And I look forward to seeing you in January when we're going to talk a little bit about goal setting for the new year. I wish you all the best and a happy, healthy new year. And thank you for being a part of Epicure Nutrition. I couldn't do this without you. Thank you. Mwah. And we're going to end it now.